Love me a good joint. Not that type of joint. Talking about joint practices. Rams in town to put a bow on Texans training camp, a very hyped up training camp, and one that's been very exciting. And joint practices are cool. They're more valuable than preseason games. And you got to see some stars on the field today. Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford in attendance. And one of my favorite things about watching these practices is after these practices conclude, you get to hear what the opposing team has to say about the Texans, whether it's the coach, whether it's the players, and the praise has gotten higher throughout the years. And it was really, really high when it came to the Rams and what they had to say about the Texans. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. Swarm that like button. Be sure to subscribe, thumbs up, right along for the best Texans coverage in the country. We're reacting to what the Rams had to say about CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryans, the secondary, and Cam Akers. So we got a lot of thoughts from the Rams. Let's start with CJ Stroud, though. We've heard CJ Stroud say a lot of nice things about Matthew Stafford during the offseason. He said he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time. Here was CJ Stroud after getting to share the field with one of his favorite quarterbacks of all time and why he likes Matthew Stafford so much.
That jumps off from him is just his toughness. Like, man, he's tough as nails. Like, I remember watching the mic'd up with him. He broke his shoulder or something weird like that. And he finished the drive, and his shoulder was down here falling out of place. And I just respect that, because it's not easy. And just how he manipulates guys with his eyes, his drops, his arm angles. Man, I've been a fan of Matt Stafford for a long time, and I wasn't trying to be like a fanboy today, but I asked him a lot of questions. Just try to just learn, and he was really honest with me and wasn't like mean, which I appreciate. So definitely a huge fan of his, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, and to like share a field with him was dope.
Who's going to be mean to CJ Stroud when they're asking him questions? I would like to know. Have you ever gone up to anyone and they've been mean to you? I would love to know who that was. But that's CJ on Stafford, and we've heard a little bit of that. We haven't really heard Matthew Stafford and what he thinks of CJ Stroud until after practice. Here was Matthew Stafford talking about how he feels about CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud has said that he is a fan of yours. What's your kind of impression of him as he's coming to the league?
Yeah, I mean, it's likewise for me. I'm a huge fan of watching him play. Throws the ball with ease, plays with like a really calm aggression, which I like. His first touchdown to Tank Dell, letter of the law in the preseason this year. That's buzz coverage right into a dagger window. Usually not throwing that ball, but hey, they didn't play it as well as they could, and he fit it in there for a touchdown. I mean, that's playing ball in an aggressive way, but smart, and I'll let him know that. I thought it was a pretty sweet play. So, he plays at a really high level, especially for a young kid. They've got a lot of talent around him, which is a lot of fun to watch, and he does a great job of getting those guys the ball.
It's really interesting, and you do got to wonder, like, what is it going to be like when CJ Stroud in the shoes on the other foot? I think he'll handle it pretty well, but it does got to kind of be weird. You go from being the young guy and coming up and looking up to these guys, and then all of a sudden you're the guy that everyone is looking to. You almost feel like you're old, and you kind of switch the way in which you handle these certain situations. And Matthew Stafford was actually asked about that by the LA media. What is it like when Caleb Williams, I think they've had interaction with Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud, when they talk about how much they look up to you, what exactly is that like? Here's what Matthew Stafford had to say about that.
Stroud and Caleb Williams have been very public about how much they look up to you and try to model parts of their game after you. Does that ever get old, I guess, or trip you up a little bit thinking, wow, I'm being watched, my career is being followed by these rising?
It's humbling, I remember being in their shoes thinking the same thing about Brett Favre and Peyton Manning when I got to go against those guys in the beginning of my career. I'm not putting myself in that same breath, but the older guys. And, it was a really cool experience. I'll never forget playing Brett. When he was in Minnesota and I was in Detroit, and he came up to me and was like, hey, man, I'm a big fan. I'm like, you can't say that to me, right? Like, I'm the fan of you. I've been watching you play for forever. So it is cool. It's humbling. That these guys are paying attention and as big of fans as they might be of me, I wish nothing but the best for those guys. This position is hard. It's humbling. It's difficult. There's ups, there's downs. And, guys that play this position for a long time know you got to stick together and pull for each other. So I'm pulling for those guys.
And that's the quarterback reaction there from Matthew Stafford. The coaches. There was a long embrace, long interaction with Sean McVay and DeMeco Ryans, and they've done some battles. They've done some battles with some high stakes. Going back to DeMeco's days in San Francisco, and McVay, of course, still with the Rams. McVay started out his press conference. He's one of those guys who goes to the podium and he gives you like a nice summary before a question is even asked. So he kind of gets stuff out of the way and he gets the easy stuff out of the way. Frank Ross, the special teams coach of the Texans, does that as well. But this was Sean McVay's early shout out. We're also going to hear him on Cam Akers and the Texans secondary. Some surprising flowers from one of the best coaches in the league in the direction of a Texans player who's had a hell of a camp. We'll hear that in a sec. But first, let's hear Sean McVay giving DeMeco and the Texans organization some flowers.
Really, it sounds like it was a pretty mild day, but I'm drenched. You appreciate what these guys go through. I thought DeMeco and his group was first class. We got a lot of good work today. That was exactly what we hoped. And I thought our guys pushed through. There's going to be a lot of teaching. And, we don't really game plan any of these things. So there was a lot of good stuff and there's a lot of learning opportunities. And that's exactly why we do these. And so, but I was overall really pleased with the work we were able to get done. It was really important for us to be able to come here, make sure that we got all of the work that we had scheduled in and we were able to do that. And so I was pleased with a lot of things and very appreciative of DeMeco and his group and first class.
First class, there you go. You hear that a lot. That was Sean McVay on DeMeco Ryans. We'll hear him in a sec on one of his former players. The running back battle continues to be interesting. It's been a polarizing position the last couple of years in regards to depth. Cam Akers, and he actually shouts out the doctor. We've talked about Cam Akers and the fact that, these 2 torn Achilles, like in the past, that's the end of a career, maybe just one. But there's a revolutionary surgery that he's had 2 of, and it could be the new ACL surgery where back in the day, ACL, you were basically done. But now we see guys tear their ACLs multiple times, tear both ACLs, and they go back out there and they look like their old selves in a lot of instances. Here was Sean McVay being asked about one of his former players, Cam Akers, who I think came back and played in the postseason after like 8 months, 9 months. It wasn't even a year of a torn Achilles and looked pretty good. And that was before the second one that happened last year before he got back on the field. This time, here's Sean McVay talking about Cam Akers, who's turned a lot of heads for the Texans this year in camp.
Cam Akers has made some good strides here in Houston. What are your thoughts about him being able to come back from the second torn Achilles?
Yeah, I think just resilience. The guy's mentally tough. You look at it, and I saw Cam. It was good to see even in the Hall of Fame game, be able to do what he's done. But when he came back from the first Achilles and you look at the timetable and, Dr. Elitrosh, has some amazing things that he's able to do to accelerate that. But that's a real credit to Cam and the work ethic, that he has and really what he's put in. And so you can't say enough about just, people that overcome things. Cam's got examples of being able to do that and you're pulling for him.
What do you think about him?
Shout out to Dr. Elitrosh, whoever that is. I knew there was a surgery. Maybe Dr. Elitrosh. Maybe it's like the new Andrews, whatever the heck that is. But the final piece of Rams praise / discussion about the Texans was the secondary. Derek Stingley, one of the best corners in the league when he's on the field. Kamari Lassiter getting a lot of respect. Jalen Petrie, new role. A lot of people have noticed that around here. Sean McVay seems to notice it as well. This was Sean McVay talking about the Texans secondary, and he gives a few shout outs and a few bundles of flowers. Here's Sean McVay.
Secondary against your receiving.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I've been super impressed with Stingley from when he was coming out, and then you watch the production that he had last year, and I thought Petrie was all over the place. Jimmy Ward is a guy that I've always respected because of the athleticism, the position flex, and what he enables them to be able to do as a safety or a guy that can drop down and, play coverage on receivers or tight ends. But I thought, Petrie's a guy that you can see he's really good. I felt them today, and they did a great job. And then obviously having 2 special guys coming off the edge makes a major difference.
There you go. So some flowers. You expect them for DeMeco. You expect them for CJ. Cam Akers, he used to play there, but the secondary, Sean McVay, impressed. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Best Texans digital coverage in the country, and it's just the beginning. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether they're saying good things, whether they're saying bad things, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for joining the locker room.
Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the